Anthony Gordon says he's keen to explore his options to leave Newcastle this summer amid interest from Bayern Munich. Ain't having that, by the way, before going any further. I like Anthony Gordon. Yeah. Where's he playing in that Bayern Munich team?
Diaz must be playing left back.
Where's he playing? He's quite right though, because he wants his future sorted out before the World Cup. I would say he's 100% right to exercise those options, Gab. And whether it's another contract at Newcastle, whether it's he moves on.
Maybe Newcastle want him to move. We don't know. Maybe
we don't know the
Howe
situation. Maybe
will take the money to reinvest in other places, because he has had a decent season, Anthony Gordon, but there's been many times where he's been dragged off.
I get it.
For other wingers. Like, he's not had the season of his life. So it might suit both parties. Use that money to go and buy another winger.
Well, Anthony Gordon, he was booed off by a section of Newcastle fans during the defeat to Everton last month. And our man in the north, Steve Harmison, was heavily critical of those who did the booing.
Me and Mickey looked at each other. We both had headphones on, and we were like, "He's booed him." Yeah? There was a bit of jeer in there. So, I mean, them fans that I said on it straight away on air that it was out of order. I was as a Newcastle fan, I was actually quite disgusted that we can boo one of our own in the middle of a game. I don't mind at half time. To be fair, Ali, I think I was booing at half time. But that's fine. That's fine. I've got no problem with that. But them supporters that jeered them, when you're sitting in that stadium on Tuesday night against Barcelona, or potentially going to Barcelona where the following Wednesday, just remember he scored 4 goals in that Carabao game first leg when we got through. So I think sometimes are small-minded people, but sometimes of this frustration. He hasn't had the best of times in the Premier League.
Well, let's bring the man in himself. Harmy, very good morning. How are you, Harmy?
Good morning, Harmy.
Good morning, Gab. Good morning, Ali. Morning, very well. Yourselves?
Top form, Harmy. We're in brilliant form. Now, I want to discuss this and take this a little bit further, if I may. I will 100% back the fans' opinion to, voice their opinions at the game, right? But I'm with you. I do not think it does anybody any good if you're booing your own players particularly during the match. But absolutely, you can air your views. I get that, and particularly at half time at the end of the game. But surely, and I get the frustration in the fans, but surely it doesn't help the team or certainly the individual player, Harmy.
No, I don't think it did. I think there was a little bit of whether it was disgruntled towards Anthony Gordon coming off, or disgruntled toward Eddie Howe bringing Anthony Gordon off, or just frustration that the next decision that was going to be made in a game which wasn't going Newcastle's way. I think Newcastle, it's interesting. The Anthony Gordon one is interesting. About 18 months ago, I think he tried, or there was a rumour about him going to Liverpool. And I don't think Newcastle fans have really forgiven that bit when Anthony Gordon, I think, came out and more or less said he'd be open to a move. Yeah. And his time on Tyneside, I think, has been hit and miss. I think it's when it's been good, it's been really good. Agreed. I mean, Champions League, he's been unbelievable. Mm-hmm. He scored penalties in the Premier League. I would like him to stay. I think there's a play here. I mean, look, guys, he signed for 40 million towards 45 million. He won a trophy. He's played 2 Champions League campaigns. He was excellent in this one. He scored 10 goals, more than Alan Shearer did when Alan Shearer played in the Champions League under Sir Bobby Robson. And he became an international player under Eddie Howe. You say he wants his future sorted out, or he said he wants his future sorted out. I think he's contracted till 2030.
Exactly.
So there's a contract in place for quite a long time.
That's what I've got to be saying, right? That's exactly. I'm reading that there and I'm thinking myself, his contract must be up at the end of the season. And then Gabby's just told me he's got 2 or 3 years to go.
It doesn't add up, does it?
I don't get that.
No, it doesn't. But I think look, Newcastle are in a huge. I think it's going to be a huge 4 or 5 weeks till the end of the season. I think it's going to be a huge 3 months. The World Cup's not going to help. They need to make sure they've sorted out. They've got assets. Newcastle have got probably 4 or 5 players that are leaving from the 25-man squad. Kieran Trippier's already said he's going. They've got assets which I don't think Newcastle can afford to lose, and I'm talking about the 2 fullbacks in Hull and Livramento, Tonali, Grameres. Yeah. If you want to put Anthony Gordon in there as well, the likes of Lewis Miley will be thought after because PSR and homegrown. So Newcastle don't want them players to go, but there's been a lot of talk about Tonali. There's been a lot of talk about Gordon, and there's been a lot of talk about Livramento. I think if Newcastle fans were offered which one, they would say, right, one would have to go. I think Newcastle fans would say Anthony Gordon. I really do. Yeah. I think they'd rather keep Tonali. I don't think Bruno will leave. And the two fullbacks, I think the club needs to be building teams around them. So that's just from a Newcastle fan's point of view. But it'll be interesting to see where it goes with Anthony Gordon. Looking last night, boys, I think you have just said it.
Yeah, Diaz.
I mean, good luck trying to fit into that front four.
Exactly. Yeah. Harmy, let's forget about Andy Gordon for a second. The new signings, Wissa, 1 goal in 14 Premier League appearances. Voltemada, 7 in 28. You look at Elanga, 0 goals, 1 assist in 28 Premier League appearances. They've not worked, have they, the new signings? And even Osalu is starting before some of these big signings. Has Eddie Howe got a problem in the summer with these players?
Yeah, you're right. It's got a problem in the summer. But the problem was caused by last summer.
Exactly.
And that is the big problem. And I think that is something that Newcastle need to learn from, is that they need to get the house in order before we get to the last day of the transfer window and we throw an extra 30 million at Voltemada and 25 million at Wissa. And I think that was probably the issue. Anthony Elanga, I think, will come good. I think there's a player in there, and I just don't think he's quite got it right for Newcastle at this moment in time. But I think the number 9 slot is one where Newcastle will need to sort out, the 2 goalkeeper situation if they're going to bring in a number 1, and then they need to work out what to do with Wissa and Voltemada. Does Voltemada go back to Germany after a World Cup? How do you get Wissa fit from a good pre-season? I think Eddie Howe probably has to take responsibility of what happened last summer, and there's all talk about whether he stays or whether he goes. I mean, I would not like to see Jose Mourinho come into Newcastle. I remember Rafa Benitez at Newcastle. I know it's a different time under Mike Ashley.
Yeah.
But I can see Mourinho coming to Newcastle, dealing with PSR, causing a few problems, trying to get sacked after 6 months and turning the fans against the club. That's what Mourinho does. And we had that with Benitez, I thought, and I wasn't a big fan. I know Newcastle fans were heavily popular with Rafa Benitez, but Eddie Howe walk away?
Well, here's one for you.
Exhausted. He looks a bit tired. That is the big question. People asking me, has Eddie Howe taken Newcastle as far as they go? I'm interested to hear what your thoughts on this.
Well,
has Eddie Howe taken Newcastle as far as they go?
Sometimes I think Eddie's done a brilliant job. Sorry, carry on, Paul, and you go then.
My opinion is Newcastle have taken Eddie Howe as far as he can go. I really do. I really think he is a top manager. And I think we'd make a mistake if we don't just calm it. See, last summer caused us a hell of a lot of problems.
Yep.
We've never recovered from it. Let's get to the summer. Let's sit down and make some calm, rational decisions.
Agreed.
And go forward, because I think the right man is in charge.
I 100% agree. I really do. But like you mentioned there, sometimes, and I think Eddie's done a great job and is doing a good job at Newcastle. I really believe that. But sometimes relationships come to a natural ending for whatever reasons. And I'm not sure whether this is the case or that is the case at this moment in time. In terms of the job that Eddie's doing at Newcastle, I think it's a good one. I think his hands to a certain degree are tied, as you correctly say, whether it's the PSR and players coming in and coming and going. But I think I genuinely think it would be a tough one to replace. And I'm with you, Harmy. I don't think Mourinho would be the man for that job.
Way.
I don't. I really don't.
No, I 100% agree. And I've said, like I said before about the Rafa stuff, I think Newcastle could take a breath now. Just take a deep breath, get through to Fulham last game of the season.
Agreed.
And let the players go off to a World Cup. And between Eddie Howe, Ross Wallace, the chief executive, work out which ones need to go, work out which ones have run their race at Newcastle, which ones we can take a loss on. And then, because we can't afford to take a loss too much on some of them because of PSR, and then make some correct decisions with bringing in a number 9, possibly a new central defender, a fullback, and then whether we obviously need a number 1, a goalkeeper. There would be the big, I think, positions Newcastle need. And I'm adamant that I will never ever turn my back on a man who is over 4 years taking Newcastle from probably Championship football, to play Champions League football. Best day of my life as a fan in 70 years at Newcastle winning a trophy. I don't think we should be turning our back on him now for what he's done for us. Whether he's had enough, that's a different story.
But I think it's fair though, isn't it, Harmy, when people do criticise of like the Premier League season, you look at Sunderland 4 points ahead of Newcastle. It's okay to criticise, isn't it, a manager, but like not say that he has to leave. Do you know what I mean, mate?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, even Eddie Howe, I think even Eddie Howe will sit in the cold light of day and say, he has some of the criticisms that's coming to this club. I'll hands up. I'm man enough to say, we've got this wrong. We haven't had this. We didn't get this right. Yeah, and that's what I mean. You know, the criticism. I've got no problem people criticising Newcastle. We've got a passionate group, and people that want them to go. I've got no problem with that. That's their opinion, and it's a healthy opinion. It really is a healthy opinion because the club's in a healthy position, haven't had a difficult season when it comes to the Premier League. But I think once the games are finished and once we've had a sort of a deep breath, I still think with the options out there, irrespective of the options out there, the best man that can take Newcastle forward, if he's still got the fight, the vigour and the enthusiasm, which he's always had at Newcastle, I think once everybody's had that breath, I think looking at the other options, there's no question he's the right man for Newcastle going forward.
Harmy, the biggest surprise for me in the morning is we're questioning Anthony Gordon's future and he's got 3 years to go in his contract. And that's the biggest surprise for me, mate. What is happening? What is happening with the modern day footballer? Harmy, good to see you, mate. Enjoy your football at the weekend. Some good games tonight as well. Take care, pal.
Good morning, boys.